Hello and welcome. In this presentation, I'll talk about ASM policy types. My name is Cesar Augusto Bonilla. I'm Senior Network Support Engineer at F5 Networks. Our agenda today. I'll briefly explain the different policy types that you can find in ASM. After that, I will explain more about an important group of ASM policies called automatic security policies. And the third topic I'll talk about is the entities options. Okay, let's begin. There are 5 types of ASM policies you can find in ASM. The first one is the automatic security policy. This policy starts with no entities. Then the policy builder, they will create the elements according to how much traffic the VIP receives from the clients. Then the system stabilizes and then enforce the security policy according to the number of requests that are processed by the ASM. There are 2 types of automatic security policies, fundamental and comprehensive. I will explain them in more detail in the next section. The second type of policy is the rapid deployment policy. This rapid deployment policy is useful when you need to create policy quicker. Then they will provide the minimum features to secure your web application and also reduce the complexity of the creation of the policy. However, the administrator needs to tune in this policy after the policy is created. The third type is security policy integrated with a vulnerability assessment tool. This ASM supports some of the vulnerability assessment scanners, such as Whitehall Sentinel, IBM App Scan, Trashwave, Qualys, and others. Then with a report based of this vulnerability scanner, then the ASM can create ASM policy. The fourth type of security policy is the application ready template. This type of policy is based on a template that widely used web applications. Then these policies can have already created some elements and security settings. After that, the administrator can fine-tune this policy. The last type of security policy is called parent and child security policies. The parent policy is a policy that is can be template for child policies. The difference between the application ready template is that any modification in the parent policy also modify the setting in the child policy. Then child policies inherit the settings from the parent and can be modified by them. Okay, let's explain more about the automatic security policies. The automatic security policies are most used by the customers. Then it's worthy to explain more about this type of policy and how they are built. As I mentioned before, there are 2 types of these automatic security policies, fundamental and comprehensive. Fundamental will create less elements and the administration will be is a little bit easier, but they will reduce also the level of security. Instead of comprehensive policies, will create more elements tailored to the web application, and also because of they have more elements, the administration is more difficult. In previous version, there are policy called enhance. That was a trade-off between fundamental and comprehensive, but in versions 14 and onwards, this type of policy is not anymore. Here, a note, these automatic security policies are based on the policy builder. The policy builder is the process that is collecting the requests from the clients, and they are creating the elements according to this type of requests. Then this policy builder classified two types of requests. Requests from trusted clients and from untrusted clients. You define the settings in the policy. We will use these trusted and untrusted settings for this lab. But after that, in a future presentation, we will explain more about the policy builder. Okay, then the automatic security policies, the difference between comprehensive and fundamental is the type of policies that, type of elements that create in every policy. Then we divide it in 6 types of elements. Then there are HTTP URL, WebSockets URLs, parameters, file types, cookies, redirection domains. Then the first 3 are different from these 2 policies. The last 3 are the same. Then let's explain better in the lab. Okay, we have here in the first tab a comprehensive policy, and the second tab a fundamental policy. Then we go to security, application security, policy building, learning and blocking settings to know the element types. Select the policy, in this case is fundamental for this tab, and for this tab is comprehensive. Okay. Then if we go for the first element, that is HTTP URLs, in the comprehensive, we have a compat, and the maximum length HTTP URLs is 100. And after, in the next section, I will explain what is compat and this information that you can find here. WebSocket URLs is set as always, and the maximum length WebSocket URLs is 100. Instead of fundamental, they have the difference is they have the new URLs is set never wildcard only, and the new WebSocket URLs is also set up as a never wildcard only. Parameters. The learn new parameters is set as compat in comprehensive, and the maximum learn parameter is 100. Instead of fundamental, is set as selective, and then the maximum learn parameter is 10,000. As I explained you before, the last 3 entities type, file types, cookies, and redirection domains is the same settings for both comprehensive and fundamentals. Then I just explained in the comprehensive type of policy. Then the file types is set as compat, and the maximum length file types is 50 for file types. In cookies, then the learn new cookies is selective, and the maximum length cookies is 100. And then the redirection domains is in both type of policies is set as always, and the maximum length redirection domains is 100. Then let's continue with the presentation where I explain the different type of elements. Okay, then I explain here the different type of elements here in the entities options. Then we have 4 types of entities options: always, selective, compact, and never wildcard. Then this always is the entity, the setting that will create an element for every entity that match the wildcard. At the end, when the policy is enforced, the wildcard will be deleted and only the explicit elements will be remain in the policy. After that, we have the selective. When in the selective, we have the wildcard, and for the wildcard have the default settings for this type of element, and every request that they cause a false positive in the wildcard, they will create a new element. The difference is at the end, when you enforce this type of entity, the wildcard will remain with the default settings. Then we have a mix between wildcard and explicit entities here. Compact is a mix of between always and selective. They will have wildcard, and also they will have explicit entities. But the difference is they will have a top level of wildcards. For example, in URLs, you will see different wildcards according to the top level URLs. Then you will have the wildcard that will match whichever entity. But if you have a more specific entity, for example, you will have /abc/start that will match every URL that starts in the folder ABC. And the last entity option is never wildcard. It means that no explicit entity will be added to the policy. When they at the end, when this policy is enforced, then the wildcard will remain in the policy. Let's explain when we create lab. Then let's create a policy. We click advance. Perfect. Then, as I explained you before, the policy builder requires the trusted and untrusted traffic. You will define the IP address from trusted IP address here in the IP address sections. Then we will write our IP address. Click as a policy builder trusted IP address. Please, I need to check the right policy. And then here, policy building, learning, and blocking settings. Then we select learning speed fast. And we select our entity options. For example, If URL, we can select always. Then in the parameters, we will select compat. And we save. Then we will apply the policy. And then we can go to URLs and see that this is the wildcard. As is always, then they will create the URLs here. And parameters, they will create the parameters also here. Then if we have a script that will send a number of requests. Let me show you the script. The script is a curve that is iterating, creating different numbers of requests and page, and also the using the different type of parameters. Then here we can see the number of the requests, the URL, and the page and extension file type. Then if we review our policy, go to policy building traffic learning, then the system will suggest, as this is a trusted IP address, then that we need to add the HTTP URL, and then we will accept the suggestions. Also, we can accept other suggestions for the parameters. Let's accept all the suggestions. And then if we go to URLs, allow URLs, then we will see that the URLs is creating for every request. Then if we enforce this entity type URL, then we see that we can apply the policy. And then we can see the number of elements that are creating according to our requests. Then this is the lab. And you can find more documentation in building web application security policies with entities and adding entities to security policy. Thank you so much.